Okay, if you can bring your conversations to a close. Yes, it's great to have Andrew and Kirsty sharing with us this morning on Palm Sunday. And let me just pray briefly before you start. Lord, we thank you for your word, for the scripture which we can return to as a source of wisdom and truth. We thank you for Andrew and Kirsty and what they've prepared for us this morning. And just pray that as we listen and receive, that your Spirit would continue to be at work amongst all of us. Amen.
So these are the readings for this morning. The first is from John 12 to 19. Jesus comes to Jerusalem as king. The next day, the great crowd that had come from the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and they went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it. As it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter of Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt." At first, his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him, and that these things had been done to him. Now, the crowd that was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to spread the word. Many people, because they had heard that he had performed this sign, went out to meet him. So the Pharisees said to one another, "See, this is getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him." This is from Philippians 2, verses 6 to 9. The attitude you should have is the one that Christ Jesus had. He always had the nature of God, but he did not think that by force he should try to remain equal with God. Instead, of his own free will, he gave up all he had and took on the nature of a servant. He became like a human being and appeared in human likeness. He was humble, and he walked the path of obedience all the way to death, his death on the cross. For this reason, God raised him to the highest place above. And from Zephaniah 3, "The King of Israel, the Lord, is in your midst. Do not fear, O Zion. The Lord your God is in your midst, a warrior who gives victory. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will renew you in his love."
Thank you. So as Malcolm said, today is Palm Sunday, the day the church observes Jesus' epic and pointed entry into the royal city of Jerusalem during Passover. We're going to call on a picture that divides up the story in a particular way, and I hope this will enable us to be drawn into the story, to see ourselves, to find ourselves in it, and to hear for ourselves what Jesus, the coming King, might want to convey to us through this donkey ride, this wordless yet full of gesture and meaning donkey ride. This is clearly a charged and dramatic scene which catapults and expedites Jesus' final journey It's first and foremost a declaration of kingship and a demonstration of what the kingdom is like. His way, along with its challenge and its invitation to follow. Now, there's been a close community meal with Lazarus outside Jerusalem the day before. Maybe there are whispers. Tomorrow, will he goad the Pharisees again? Are we building up to something special here? Lazarus, the man who was dead and who was raised from the dead, is now walking and talking and about to enter Jerusalem with Jesus. Lazarus' presence is tantalizing and provocative, another important, tangible sign of a superpower in town which will sweep Jesus into collision and potentially power. Into this setting, on this day, Jesus incredibly, strangely, vulnerably rides through the crowds on a donkey. It's difficult for me not to think of the Pope in a mini or a queen on a bike. Passover, kingship, and prophecy are bouncing off the walls. Hints and guesses are swirling all around. The atmosphere is a heady mix of adoration, curiosity, fascination, skepticism, and threat. The mood is one of inevitable tragedy, as Palm Sunday leads towards Good Friday and a Roman death by crucifixion that will mark Jesus out as a humiliated criminal. The text refers to three crowds. Three. The great crowd who came for the festival, verse 12, and the crowd that was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb, verse 17. And the picture here reasonably adds another crowd, the Pharisees, the religious community of leaders who conclude from this bubbling scene, this is getting us nowhere. Look, the whole world is going after him. In the scene, we've got palm branches being swung, swishing in the air. There's a procession, bustling crowds, fever-pitched noise, a festival, almost carnival atmosphere. You can see in the picture three groups. There's expectation, adoration, and hopes to the right. Let me call it the Lazarus group. And there's curiosity and fascination in the middle group, the great curious group. And there's also self-protection and plotting on the left, the Pharisees group. You might note that one of their number is turned away from Jesus rather than turned towards him, for example. So, like a contemplative exercise, let's smell the air, let's watch, and as we put ourselves in the shoes of each of these groups, with Kirsty's help, let's pay attention to what's moving inside us, listen for personal echoes, memories and connections that the Spirit might evoke. I'm suggesting we have three postures and attitudes here, one per group. So, first of all, the first group is the right-hand group, and the posture and attitude of adoration.
Do not be afraid, daughter of Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt. Under the dark trees, there he stands. There he stands. Shall he not draw my eyes? I thought I knew a little how he compels beyond all things, but now he stands there in the shadows. It will be, oh, such a daybreak, such a bright morning, when I shall wake to see him as he is. He compels. Beyond 10,000 rivals, there he stands, my friend, the friend of guilt and helplessness. This is a part of a poem by Anne Griffith. I saw him standing.
Some time ago, I went pony trekking in the Borders with friends. We were gathered around the leader and we were facing the ponies and asked to choose one. I was last, and there were 2 ponies left. One was called Buttercup. It's described as a docile animal, and I was assured it did actually move. The other one was called Storm, or Thunderbolt, or Dynamite, something like that. I can't quite recall. It bucks, I was told. I have 8 pairs of eyes all fixed on me, and my decision, Buttercup or Thunderbolt. There's no emergency fire button I can press to distract people from my choice. There's no fiery boy racer decals I can add to Buttercup to disguise my choice. I sigh and I say, okay, let's go with the Deathmobile. So the first 50 minutes are fine. I kind of feel like that maybe it's got a sense that I'm in charge, that I'm not someone to be messed with. And that was until we went downhill. And then that's when it started bucking. And that's when I started sailing twice through the air and landed rather heavily. At the end of the trek, we were told that there would be an open field and the ponies are encouraged to canter. And of course, at this particular point, I was feeling like there's a certain amount of composure had been restored and maybe some respect, possibly in the eyes of my peers, had maybe been restored. And of course, during this canter, Thunderbolt decided to start bucking again, and I was sailing through the air once again and landing again rather heavily. Now, I say that to say this. Jesus did not choose a stallion to sit upon, pulling along those he conquered. He chose Buttercup, pointedly and for good reason. The artist Flandrin is likely thinking of the Lazarus group, which includes Jesus' disciples on the right of the picture. As Jesus' community of friends, they have once again eaten a meal together, and Mary has just washed Jesus' feet with her hair, dripping with expensive oil. These are devoted followers. They kneel and prostrate themselves. They appeal with their eyes and their heart. We're all in, they seem to say. And yet they've had questions. Should he do this? What's he saying by doing this? And maybe also, where will such following lead us? Jesus' path is a reckless path, an extravagant path, one that mirrors Mary's own extravagant act of washing Jesus' feet. It's the path of self-emptying love, sometimes called kenotic love. For in whatever life circumstances, Jesus always responds with the same motion of self-emptying, of descent, going lower, taking the lower place, not the higher. Jesus' real purpose is not to arouse empathy, but to create empowerment. In other words, Jesus is not particularly interested in increasing our guilt or our devotion, but rather in deepening our personal capacity to make the passage into unitive life, one of union with God with no separation. Those are the fine words of Cynthia Boujard, Episcopal priest. So Jesus goes into Jerusalem to meet and face his death, submitting his followers to grief, confusion, and despair that will ultimately, of course, lead to joy and surprise. Whilst Jesus tries to prepare them, doesn't coerce them, it feels like they are and will be put through the ringer. The disciples did not understand, not until after the event. feeling is that no one other than Jesus understood what was going on, which to my mind makes his loneliness, his wordlessness, his courage even more noteworthy. So, Jesus' path then is of extravagant, reckless love and courage. And as I have contemplated this scene and allowed myself to be drawn in, I was sensed Jesus addressing or appealing to the soft, yielded places in me, maybe us. The part that says, yes, that trusts despite what they see in the world, that doesn't necessarily understand, that sees Jesus extravagant, fearless, giving of himself, and hears him say, don't be afraid. Far more can be mended than you know. So we're going to come to the second group, the middle background group, and the posture and attitude of curiosity or fascination.
They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel.
The crowd went out to meet him. They're not passive, waiting, but surge to meet Jesus. They take up palm branches, which is the way to celebrate victories. They shout. There's a cacophony of noise and voices fill the air. And Jesus does not dampen down this enthusiastic, expectant reception. In the picture, this middle crowd look on, slightly more removed, but fascinated. This is spectacle and history going on. A man lifts up his child to see. They shout, Hosanna, save us, now. And blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. These are words taken from Psalms 113 and 118, which are sung during every Passover, where the king, if there was one, would be re-inaugurated. So feelings are running high and expectations rise for redemption, for a king, for a Messiah. My thoughts go to Arthur and the sword legend. Remember, there's a sword wedged in a rock, and the one who pulls it out will be king. Many try, come from far and wide, just like maybe Simon Maccabees and Barabbas have done in Jesus' time. But they cannot pull out the sword. Along comes the boy Arthur, who does pull the sword from the stone and is taken as king. But here, Jesus pulls the sword and throws it to the ground. With his superpower and words of authority, could he be the one who could save them now from Roman rule and for a reformed, independent nation? Now is surely the hour. But Jesus doesn't quieten down or disagree with the recognition or the title, but he does pointedly refute and refuse the role. Something more than national power is in Jesus' mind, not defeat of the ruling power of Rome, but of bigger fish, of sin and death, which disempowers and separates, and of judgment of the prince of this world. It's not Cameron, is it? It is. Is he out of his bed? Oh, right. So Jesus' path then is unerring towards separation, whatever separates and disempowers. And as I have contemplated this scene and allowed myself to be drawn in, I've sensed Jesus addressing and appealing to the standoff, interested but timid parts of me. A bit like an animal before a human, fascinated but curious, cautious. Jesus puts his hand forward, allowing us to sniff, to choose, to gauge and wonder, and asks, What exactly am I afraid of? Jesus affirms and welcomes our curiosity, respects our distance, and ultimately draws us. His quiet confidence reassures me and melts me. He says, I don't come to judge, but to save. I hear the word Hosanna, and he offers me the question, what am I looking to be saved from and for? My overthinking and my relationship with time come to mind. So now we've got the left-hand group, which is the Pharisees and the posture and attitude of self-protection and doubt.
See, this is getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him.
There was great excitement and clamour around Lazarus. Escalation and speculation is not dampening down or going away of its own accord. Lazarus, too, was in the sightlines of the Pharisees, for many of their leaders were going over to Jesus because of him. The Pharisees will have to do something. They'll have to intervene decisively. What they have, they may lose. What they've achieved and accumulated, they perceive to be a threat. And you can sense the exasperation and desperation here. And so self-protection and self-interest now move center stage. They plot to kill Lazarus. As we know, Jesus says of his kingdom that it's not of this world, that it's within us and is at hand. In some respects, there's no threat to Pharisees or Rome, as Jesus was not pushing for nationalism or a renewed monarchy or to head up a religious institution. Jesus says, I do not come to judge those who don't believe my words. I don't come to judge, but to save. So Jesus' path then is one of letting go rather than grasping position and power. And again, as I have contemplated this scene, I allowed myself to be drawn in. I've sensed Jesus addressing or appealing to the hard, stuck places in me and in my life. I hear the words, this is getting us nowhere. Where in my life am I saying, this is going nowhere? Where am I protecting and not allowing, clinging to rather than letting go? I do see some hardened Pharisees turning aside to Jesus, and I'm cheered. Hope rises in me. I hear the questions, what's the naughtiest? K-N-O-T-T-I-E-S-T, to be clear. The naughtiest thing in your life. What do I feel it's too late for? And I hear him say, is it?
Words of St. Augustine. Late have I loved you. Beauty so ancient and so new. Late have I loved you. Lo, you were within, but I outside and seeking for you there. And upon shapely things that you have made, I rushed headlong. I misshapen, but you were with me. You were with me, but I was not with you. They held me back far from you, those things which would have no being were they not in you. You called, shouted, broke through my deafness. You flared, blazed, banished my blindness. You lavished your fragrance. I gasped, and now I pant for you. I tasted you, and now I hunger and thirst. You touched me, and I burned for your peace.
Finally, let's now talk directly with this Jesus who's central to the story and to the picture.
This is Luke 12. What what I'm trying to do here is to get you to relax, not be so preoccupied with getting, so you can respond to God's giving.
There's a Danish story, you may have heard of it, Babette's Feast. A film was made of it too. It's set in a remote, rural part of Denmark with a small and aging religious community. They have deep channels of history, living and growing older together. They have long-standing quarrels and gripes. A woman is taken into the community by two sisters whose father has founded the community. This woman, Babette, serves and observes all of this and tries to help in whatever way she can do, but to no avail. One day, after receiving a letter, she announces that she wants to offer a meal, to cook it all and to pay for it for the community. Large and frequent numbers of deliveries of food and drink start arriving, and people are starting thinking, this is not quite what we expected. Indeed, come the day, a 7-course meal of such richness and extravagance. Duck, French wines, cheeses, chinaware, silverware, crystal glasses. Comes to light that Babette was once a celebrated chef in Paris, that she had lost all she had, her livelihood and her family, in political upheavals at the time, but she manages to escape with her life. That letter reveals that she has won money back in France, 2 million francs, and decides to use it all, without the community's knowing, in this one single meal for the community. And on receipt of such generosity, amazed and overwhelmed, they soften inside. They yield and become generous and forgiving towards each other. Now, this might seem like a waste of money, something that's over and done with quickly, but love is the real gift here. The ongoing oxygen, energy, and power for this group of people. This is more than gratitude. We are invited to live inside generosity, this wild, boundless, abundant love. He will renew you in his love, says Zephaniah of the coming King. So Babette and Jesus mirror what God is like, what love is like, what humanness is like. This is what Jesus is doing in John 12, and in fact throughout his whole life. Risking everything, asking for nothing. No guilt-tripping, no bad conscience provocation, no coercion, no abuse. He gives himself. He gives himself unreservedly. The flow of God, of the Trinity, is always out and to the other. The self-giving of God doesn't just stop at the crucifixion. It precedes the cross, like Palm Sunday, and it continues. An ongoing self-communication of an extravagant, courageous, humble, and freewheeling spirit. So in summary, at the center of this picture and story are the person and actions of the King, whose path, whose way, whose kingdom is shown, not merely talked. And it's one of descent. It's the humility of Jesus, it's the largesse of Jesus, and the courage of Jesus that shines through. It's the non-grasping nature of Jesus. He's not grasping for devotion, attention, or power. He inspires, he fascinates, and he challenges. He says something about a way of life, about becoming fully alive, which which is the meaning and aim of salvation, and about receiving life as a gift, not something to contort as an ambition. Showing what love is like, giving more than getting, what God is like, letting go rather than grasping, and what being truly human is like, being generous. Chris's 2 coins. Being generous in many facets, of course, in many ways, rather than just surviving. Maybe he's saying, in short, don't be afraid. Come closer. Let go. Be who you are, fully alive and one with the Father.
I'm going to just move into bread and wine. And just as we do this, we're just going to use to contemplate a bit on what we've heard, and just to invite you to use the bread and wine to do a sort of, just do then whatever interaction with Jesus that is touching you right now. Let's just take in and feed on and receive largesse, humility, and courage of Jesus as we eat and drink. And if what you have seen and heard this morning has stirred a feeling, a memory or thought, just sit with that. So I don't know if you just maybe just allow yourself to just quiet yourself. Maybe if it helps to close your eyes and just to ask Jesus what is going on with you right now, and ask yourself, what is happening within you? Is there that soft space in you that you want to sit with, where it feels open and tender, even if it's scary? You know, maybe that is what you're being asked to sit with. Maybe there's a bit of a place in you that's a bit standoff, that's maybe speculative or maybe curious, just questioning. Maybe that's a place you're invited to sit in. Maybe there's some harder places where there are knots, where there are places you feel can't be touched, that you've maybe given up on, that doesn't feel reasonable to let go of. It's not that I think Jesus is pushing himself there. He's just asking you to sit with it, or inviting you to sit with it. Invited to hear Jesus' wordless actions. Don't be afraid. Far more can be mended than you know. What is it you need saved from and for? Is it really too late? And don't be afraid. Remember that Jesus is a king who came on a donkey and who loves you. Just sit for a few minutes. We'll just take a minute to sit with that. And then please just come forward and take bread and wine. Jesus, we open our hearts to you. We invite you into those places, whether it's soft or hard or curious. And as we come and taste and partake of him, of this body and blood that he gave up for us, and invite him in to walk with us. Just when you're ready, come and